Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I am streaming to you beautiful people from Budapest in Hungary near the Danube River. I hope that everybody is having a great week so far. Hi, Kleber. Good to see you in the class. Saima, Pachu, welcome. This lesson is brought to you by aehelp.com for the academic IELTS, 6 practice exams, over 100 hours of video lessons, as well as a fully interactive course. Check us out at academicenglishhelp.com. And for the general version of the test, do check out gieltshelp.com. That's general IELTS help.com, where we also have many videos, practice exams, and more to help you get those better band scores. Download our app, Academic IELTS Help. Link the app with your website account. Learn from the app, learn from the website, same account, learn from the most advanced online IELTS learning software. Hello, everyone joining in. Good to see you all. This is our academic website at aehelp.com. Click that red button to join us there. And this is our general website here with the green background. Click that red button to join us there. If you have questions, comments, concerns about our products or the exam, send us an email. Adrian, Adrian, at aehelp.com. Now, in this class, we are focusing on speaking part 2, cue card. And we'll look at the cue card in just a moment. So in the speaking section of the exam, it takes about 14-15 minutes. And even if you have amazing English skills, the cue card is one part of the speaking exam that you have to practice before you sit your IELTS. And the reason why is because it's unnatural. Okay, we don't get a card given to us on the street or in school or at work by our colleague or friend or some stranger and says, hey, here's a card with some questions. You've got 1 minute to read the card. And after that, you've got 2 minutes to answer. Okay, go. So that doesn't happen in everyday life. And even very well-spoken native English speakers would have difficulty if they were surprised by such a odd question on the street while crossing the crosswalk by a stranger. Okay, so you really have to practice these cue cards before you sit your IELTS exam, and you have to time yourself. So in the beginning, it's okay if you're not using a stopwatch or the stopwatch app on your phone, but after you do practice a few times, start timing yourself. So time your 1 minute note-taking preparation, time your 2 minutes speaking. Gurjeet, I'm doing very well. Bek Murad, Berzadov, Bek, hi to you as well. Good evening again, Anish. Good to see many students. So again, focus on these points. Now, when you are practicing your cue card part 2 at home, how should you choose what topics and which cards to practice? I think some of you might know what I'm getting at, might know the answer to this. That's why I'm asking you. So when you're at home, how should you choose, like, okay, I'm going to do this one today, this one tomorrow, or this one later today. So how should you choose? It's a very important question for your speaking confidence and band score. Okay, so how should you choose which, let's do that in big letters, which cue cards to practice for your weeks leading or during your weeks, a little bit better English, during your weeks leading up to your IELTS exam? This is a very good question to ask, okay? So, okay. John, you will not be able to guess what is coming. Satisfying Time says a familiar subject. Pachu says people, places. I think those are the most popular. And then objects, events, and ideas. Pachu, you are on the right track. Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I was getting at. Okay. So the cue cards in the official IELTS exam, remember this, you will get a topic about either 1, a person, 2, a place, 3, an object, 4, an event, or 5, an idea. Okay? So your cue card will deal with one of these 5. No surprise. I mean, we've pretty much covered just about any topic that you can speak of. So either a person, place, object, event, or an idea. And each one of these 5 has some basic rules on how to talk about them. Okay? So, for example, when you talk about a person, okay, it's not what we're doing today, but just an example. So when you talk about a person, you talk about their appearance, what they look like, so we can imagine them, just 1 or 2 sentences. You talk about their actions, so what these people do, and their personality, or I should say personality, and their actions. So they're kind, they help children, okay? They're hardworking, they work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day at the office, all right? So that's how you talk about a person. Now, you don't know which one you're going to get. So Pachu, one of our students who is frequently in class, says, I think that person and place are the most common, but they're not, okay? They're about equal balanced. So maybe person, maybe is a little bit more popular, but to be on the safe side, I would say that each of these is about 25% probability. Okay? So it could be a person or 20%. Okay? So it could be a person, it could be a place, it could be an object. It's all 20, 20, 20, roughly 20, 20%, okay? So keep in mind that you need to practice each one of these, because if you're always practicing talking about a person before your exam and then suddenly you get a topic that's an event, you might find yourself really lost and you might be like, whoa, what? So don't get into that situation, okay? Practice each of them equally. Know how to talk about each one of these well. All right? So that's how you should spend your time. Oh, and by the way, sometimes students are like, my friend told me that on their last exam, they talked about a person in part 2. So I'm sure that next time it has to be maybe a place or an object, maybe an event. No, definitely not. It could be a person, and then the next exam it could be a person again. Okay. All right. So let's get into today's specific card. Here we go. Many people dream of having an adventure. Step number 1 is always read the card carefully, word by word. Visualize, pay attention to the tense, the grammar. Talk about an exciting adventure you would like to go on if you have the chance. What's the grammar here? So the introduction to the topic, this is very important on the card. Sometimes it's just very short. Sometimes it's a couple sentences like this. What is the grammar of this? Okay, it's a, so you have to combine Sukraj Singh and Purna J with Carolina here. Pachu has the complete answer here. It's a future conditional, right? So we're talking about a possible future event. Okay, so here it's future plus condition, right? Talk about an exciting adventure you would like to go on if you have the chance. Now, so that's your grammar. What is the qualifier for the adventure? Topic, adventure. What's the qualifier for the topic? So what defines the topic? Think about adjectives here, okay? So this is what you want to realize very quickly as you read this card. So the grammar is future condition. You need to use that, obviously, in your response. You're talking about an adventure in the future that you would like to go on. What is the qualifier? But you don't paraphrase. Yeah, just give me the direct word that they're using. Exactly. So Xiao Ming says it has to be exciting. Okay. So that's important. Maybe some of you will intrinsically, that means intrinsically means naturally or from within, intrinsic. You might think about an adventure that's exciting, but the student who will actually voice clearly, literally, that this would be a very fun, exciting adventure will get a better band score. Okay? So it is an exciting adventure. All right? So keep these in mind. These are all important points when you read the introduction to the cue card. Okay? Talk about not just an adventure. So the exam and the exam makers wrote exciting adventure you would like to go on if you have the chance. Okay? Good. So we read the rest of the card. Where would you go? Who would you go with? What would you do? What would make this adventure exciting and memorable? Okay, so exciting is in there again, and then we have a little bit more with memorable. Okay. Daniel, you don't have to use accents. Just speak natural. Okay, just speak natural. All right, so far so good. Now, what are we talking about here? So I told you that it could be a person, a place, an object, an event, or an idea. So here, which one is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? What are we talking about? Satisfying Time says we're talking about a place or an event. Yeah, we're talking about an event plus a place. Absolutely. Mostly we're talking about an event, so keep it simple. I know that these aren't always mutually exclusive. They can be mutually inclusive, but mostly we're talking about an event. And when we talk about an event, we talk about its location, the time it happened, or the time it happens, attendees. Okay, so who is there? All right. Its significance. So why is this event important? And you talk about its importance to you. If they ask you, okay, if it's about you. Okay. All right, so far so good. We have that it's an event. We know what we need to include to make this a complete answer. And then we think about some possible choices. Okay, always think about a few choices. So this is a very important step. then choose the best one. Best one means that it's somewhat unique and easy to talk about. Okay? So, give me some. Give me some choices. So, what would be an adventure that you would like to go on that would be exciting and memorable for you? Be creative. Okay, so Satisfying Times says hiking in the Amazon. Safari in Alaska. Okay. Kleber says Disneyland. All right. Sudhanshu says river rafting in Himachal. Okay. Vanessa says bungee jumping. All right. Xiao Ming Zhang says parachuting from an airplane. So here, Xiao Ming, make sure you know the vocabulary that you're going to choose. You're talking about skydiving. Okay. So parachuting from an airplane is skydiving. All right. Joanne Justy says visiting Paris, city of love. I don't know, Joanne, if that is an exciting adventure. All right. Yvonne says a popular rock concert. Again, Yvonne, in a foreign country, that might be difficult. Okay. So, Kleber, you should definitely choose one that you have the vocabulary for. Jasvir says racing a Formula One car. Shohan says walking in a jungle. You mean hiking in a jungle, like hiking in the Amazon. Okay. Possible. How about sailing around the world? Okay. That could be another one. Yeah. All right. Climbing. I'm surprised nobody said this. We have a lot of students in the region. Climbing Mount Everest in the Himalayas. Okay. Really surprised nobody said that. Oh, Higor Litig, I like it. It's one of my hobbies is surfing. So big wave surfing in Hawaii. Okay, we have lots. Hawaii. Yep. Been there, done that. Okay, so we have some great ideas. Sometimes it's tricky, students, to think of ideas. Sometimes it's easy. I can feel that for this question, many of you are getting surge of ideas, and you're getting a lot of different ideas. So here, the trick is you have to control your mind. Don't let your mind slip away with too many ideas. Try to focus on one or two. Which of these do you think is the best choice? So we have hiking in the Amazon, safari, visiting Disneyland, river rafting, bungee jumping, skydiving, sailing around the world. Lots of interesting adventures here. Climbing Mount Everest in the Himalayas, big wave surfing in Hawaii. So which of these do you think is going to be a unique answer that you're going to be able to speak about well? Okay. So John Dillon says river rafting. Game Over says, I think climbing Mount Everest is the best one. Kleber says visiting Disneyland is easy to develop. Charlie says maybe river rafting in Himachal is okay. Shahid is the second one to agree that Mount Everest might be the easiest one, dealing with nature. Okay. Scotty Owen says all of them are difficult. Ha ha ha. Okay, so here we go. This is my thought on all of these. Okay. I think hiking in the Amazon is a really good choice. I think that could be an exciting adventure, and you could talk a lot about the jungle, the animals, the rainforest, and it could be exciting, dangerous a little bit. Safari in Alaska, if you know about Alaska, sure. Visiting Disneyland, no. Okay. If I'm the examiner, this would be a popular answer. And perhaps it's rehearsed by the student. So I don't suggest visiting Disneyland. I think a lot of people choose Disneyland for many answers. So you have to be really careful when you choose Disneyland. If somebody asks you a theme park where you want to go have fun, maybe choose Disneyland. But for an exciting adventure, be careful, okay? Disneyland might be a very popular choice that many people have rehearsed before the exam. So the examiner might be a little bit like, I hope this isn't going to be some memorized poetry by the student because I can't give you a good band score. Okay, river rafting in Himachal. That sounds fantastic. I think that's a very good choice as well. Bungee jumping might be a little bit tricky to talk about. Skydiving also, if you've never done it. A lot of unique words as well. Sailing around the world, maybe a little bit tricky as well. Climbing Mount Everest in the Himalayas, I think that would be a fantastic choice. Okay. And big wave surfing in Hawaii could be a really good choice as well. Make sure you don't choose something too crazy. I think it was Carolina that says walking on the moon. I think that would be a little bit too extreme to discuss clearly. Okay, so I don't recommend it. Juan Pablo says skydiving. Skydiving is okay. I've done it. Definitely a great adventure. And if you know about it, then sure. Now, if you've had an adventure, like if you have done skydiving or if you have climbed mountains, then you can choose that one and pretend like you never talked about it. Pretend like it never happened and talk about it as if it's something you want to do in the future. Okay? So that's a good trick for speaking section 2. All right? This is a good little trick. So I'll keep that in mind. Why? Because we probably talked about it lots to our friends, our family, so we know a lot about it. Okay, so this is a little trick. All right? You could choose an idea or an event that you have experienced and talk about it like you never did it, but you would want to in the future. You likely have good information and vocabulary for such an event. All right. But we're not going to do that. We're going to pick climbing Mount Everest for today. The choice is, you can try some of the other ones later, students, and send your responses to me in MP3 recordings. But for today, we're going to do climb Mount Everest. Okay, so we want to get our first sentence ready, and we want to take some notes. So give me some notes, okay, that you would write down. And I'm picking Mount Everest because I hope to teach you some vocabulary as well. So what would be some notes that you can write for this choice. So you go, okay, I'm going to talk about a Mount Everest adventure. What would be in my notes that I can actually use during my speech? So I've got about 30, 40 seconds to write down my notes. I use the first 15 seconds to think of this idea, to plan it out. Okay, so Roshni says I need funding and training. For 6 months, sure. Hassan says highest peak. How high is it? Remember that quantitative language. So Marasa says I have to make a plan. Yeah. Smog says it's 8,848 meters. And it's still growing. Yep. Good. So use that quantitative language. Shahid says it's high. I love it. Okay. So satisfying time says frostbite. It's not cold bites, satisfying times, but good try. It's called frostbite. Is that one word? Yeah, one word. Frostbite. Frostbite is when your fingers, your toes freeze and they have to slice them off. That's okay. Puranjab, items for the climb. So climbing gear. Charlie Sen says, go with my friend. Let's go with something a little bit more specific. Best friend who? So best friend who? Who would you go with? Just name your best friend. Okay? My best friend's name is Corey. Let's go with that. All right? And then also explain why. Okay? Loves climbing and adventure. So think about your details. So think of an idea, follow the idea, keep going with more ideas. All right? Hadi Peck says it's very expensive. You need to pay a lot of money. Maybe get a guide, a Sherpa. Okay. All right. How long would it take you? Yeah, Charlie says Sherpa to guide the way. Sure. Prince Daniel, super ambitious, says 3.5 hours. Okay. I think it takes a little bit longer than that to reach the top. Yeah, so how long would it take you to reach the top, Smog? That's what I'm asking. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Say 3 days, roughly. Okay. Zaid says, take pictures. Take pics. Yeah. If you're going to climb to the top of Mount Everest, might as well do a selfie when you're up there. All right, fantastic. So you have some really good ideas, okay? Good. So this is one way that you know you've chosen a good topic, all right? So keep this in mind. Again, this is a little bit of a tip or a trick when you're doing this practice at home. If you are coming up with ideas for notes quickly and easily, you have picked a winning idea for your response. The opposite is also true. If you're really having difficulty, if you're like, oh, what do I need to say? And you can't really write down any ideas, then you've probably chosen poorly. Okay? Now, we do want to get our first sentence ready. Again, remember to look at the introductory sentence or sentences of the card to get your first sentence in mind. So many people dream of having an adventure. Talk about an exciting adventure you would like to go on if you have the chance. So you're absolutely right, Marasa, you need to get your first sentence ready so you're fluent and you show the examiner that you're on the topic. Okay? So give me your first sentence here, students. Give me your first sentence. Okay? Using that introductory part of the cue card. Yeah, Kleber, I mean, paraphrase the introductory sentence as much as possible, but most importantly, just have it ready. So Satisfying Time says, a mind-blowing trip that I go on, if I'm fortunate enough to have the time and finances, would be climbing the monstrous Mount Everest at a height of 8,848 meters, the highest peak in the world, also making it the coldest. I don't think it's the coldest Satisfying Times. I actually think there is a colder peak in Canada, Mount McKinley. But it's definitely one of the coldest. Yeah. Charlie says, I would like to climb Mount Everest with my best friend, Abhishek. All right, not bad. Okay. Huddy says, I'd like to take my water bottle with me, as I mentioned in my last part 2 speaking. Yes, I don't think that's going to happen, that situation in the IELTS exam, Huddy, but clever, clever. All right. Vanessa, I really like your response. You've incorporated the topic sentence nicely. So Vanessa says, one dream I've had for a long time and I'd like to realize one day is to climb Mount Everest with my best friend Corey. Yeah. So all right, that is your band 9 start. Very good. All right. So a dream that I've had since my childhood is to go on an incredible adventure with my best friend Corey and climb Mount Everest, the highest peak in the world. Boom. Right away, your examiner goes, all right, so you obviously read the question correctly. You can use present perfect well. You're answering directly right away, and you are giving me clear direction about what you're going to discuss. Thank you. Fantastic. Fluency, check. Grammar complexity, check. Vocabulary, lexical resource, check. Okay? Accuracy to the question, details, check. All of those are getting checked off. All right. Super. So let's continue now, students. So we're all going to work together to produce this 2-minute response using our notes and just building sentence by sentence. So here we go. Let's do it together. I'm going to read your responses, give you feedback, and then I'll choose what you are writing to continue on with this part 2 response. Okay. Juan Pablo says, a second to none experience I imagine I could have one day would be to climb Mount Everest solo as proof that I am able to get the impossible done by myself. Juan Pablo, careful. The question is, who would you go with? And if you answer no one, that's okay, but then make sure to use vocabulary that earns you points and make it clear why you don't want anybody with you. So you would go solo. And solo is important there because, Juan, we actually say solo climber. It's solo climbing. Okay, we use that specifically in that context. Game Over says, I want to climb Mount Everest to conquer, careful with your spelling of conquer, to conquer my fear of heights, which is also known as acrophobia. All right. Punish, there's a lot of different ways to improve your lexical resource. There's a really good app called Word Up that you can use to improve your lexical resource. So Zaid says, we would climb the mountain, build our camp, and take selfies. Too much information too quickly, Zaid. You need to go into more details. Okay? So Sudhanshu Sharma says for the next sentence, firstly, I would have to learn more about climbing through movies, namely Krish. In that movie, I found this adventure of climbing. Yeah, there's a lot of movies of Mount Everest. I think there's one called Everest that came out not long ago, which was really good. But it's a good continuation. So at first, my friend and I would need to learn more about climbing. Through instructions and practice. Okay, sure. The reason I would want, this is Purna J, says my friend is an adrenaline junkie just like me. So the reason I have always wanted to do this with my friend Corey is because he is an adrenaline junkie just like me. Sure. Now, students, using these kinds of colloquialisms like adrenaline junkie, that's fine. Just make sure that you're also showing your ability to form complex grammar, okay? So it's even more valuable to use present perfect. The reason I have always wanted, or I've always wanted, okay, to do this with my friend Corey is because he is an adrenaline junkie just like me. Adrenaline is a medical term used by a pharmaceutical company. The exact term for adrenaline, students who are especially in biology, it's called epinephrine. And it is the hormone that makes you feel super excited when you're skydiving and you're like, wow, this is the craziest thing ever. You're getting an adrenaline rush. Okay? And a person who loves adrenaline is called an adrenaline junkie. All right. Okay, so let's keep going. So far, let's review what we have and then tell me what comes next. A dream that I've had since my childhood is to go on an incredible adventure with my best friend Corey and climb Mount Everest, the highest peak in the world. At first, my friend and I would need to learn more about climbing through instructions and practice. The reason I've always wanted to do this with my friend Corey is because he is an adrenaline junkie just like me. Mount Everest sits at a height of, I'm getting this from one of our students, by the way, of over 8,800 meters in the Himalayas, in a section of the Himalayas located in Nepal? That's right. Very good. Thank you for that information, John Dillon. John Dillon says that's in Nepal, India, and we want to say that. Why do we want to say that? Because you have to answer the questions on the card. First one, where would you go? Okay, you'd go to Mount Everest, sure, but where is that? So Mount Everest is in the Himalayas in Nepal. Be as specific as you can be. Who would you go with? With your friend Corey? Hidden question, why? Because he's an adrenaline junkie, he's my best friend. What would you do? We started that, so we would get some training. Okay, and this last part, what would make this adventure exciting and memorable? That's still coming up. Okay, so let's keep those in mind. Remember to use your notes. Way too many students do not use their notes. Highest peak, frostbite, climbing gear, best friend, hire a guide, blizzard, snow, ice, Sherpa, 3 days, take a selfie. Give me more sentences, students. Give me more sentences. Okay. Yes, Kleber, you definitely have to answer all the questions on the card. If you miss questions, you lose band scores. Okay. Satisfying Time says, following careful rules from our tour guide, from our Sherpa. Is to check my head with the surrounding high-level danger. Everything could turn bad in a fraction of a second. Okay, careful, Satisfying Times. I think you're losing yourself. Okay, we ought to take a few lessons about Mount Everest. This is Mr. Beck. We ought to take a few lessons about Mount Everest so we can know what kind of difficulties we are going to face as we experienced diving in Dubai. Okay, diving in Dubai would be off topic. Speaking is alike, writing ideas why you like it, explain, example, conclude it, task over, says game over. Yes, that's the basic idea, game over. You just need to fill in the information now. Charlie Sen says, as the peak is so high, it's possible that we could face respiration problems, so it's better to pack oxygen masks, not musks, Charlie Sen. Yes, but don't get lost in details, Charlie. You need to be more specific, okay? Nishant, thank you so much for coming back and thanking me for the speaking lessons. I really hope that you'll get a nice high score. So thank you, Nishant. You're very welcome for the help. Okay. Vanessa, yes, you can definitely look at your cue card and your notes while you're speaking, and that's a very good idea to do that so you don't miss questions and information. That's why for the whole time in the 3 minutes, you have the cue card and your notes in front of you. They don't take the cue card away after the 1 minute. Okay, they only take it away at the end of section 2. Okay. All right, so we want to keep going here. All right, in order to get there, I would need to raise a lot of money, perhaps through some publicity stunt. Like taking a company's flag to the summit, because the ticket to climb Everest is around $25,000 person. Not sure how much it costs, but I know it's very expensive. Okay, so I'm basically checking off the points here, and I really have to remember that last part of the card. So here again, the card is, what would you do? What would make this adventure so exciting and memorable. So you need to go along with these ideas. Okay? Don't get lost in off-topic details. So yes, you would have to exercise, you would have to be fit, and I really like how some of you now are using those modals and conditionals. So Fahim, Haider, Chatha says, or asks, if I would look at my cue card while speaking, would I lose bands? No, you wouldn't. In fact, probably you would get band scores because you would speak better. Okay, so it's a good idea to look at your card every now and then. Okay, just keep your fluency going while you look at the card. Okay, all right. So let's keep going with our answer. Give me more sentences. Charlie, very good. So there's some modals coming up. So Charlie sends us, after reaching Nepal, we would hire an experienced Sherpa who would guide us to the top of Everest. It's always covered with snow, and it's definitely important to hire a Sherpa guide. A little bit of repetition, Charlie, but the beginning is good. Carolina says, even though the blizzard weather, the snow and the ice, it would be a challenge and a memorable adventure. Good, Carolina. So you're going towards that question and you are on the right track. So I'm going to use what Charlie Sen said first. So we would certainly hire an experienced Sherpa to guide us so we do not get lost on our way up. And this is what the examiner is looking for. These words like would, could, if, when, conditionals. Okay? So we would certainly hire an experienced Sherpa to guide us so we would not get lost on our way up. And once we reached the summit, once we reached, I'm using past in the future because it's a conditional. We would take pictures, videos, and selfies to put on Instagram. Just made that up, but sure, why not? All right. This adventure would be super exciting because of the many challenges we would certainly face on our ascent. To the summit, including bad weather, blizzards, frostbite, hunger, cold, and exhaustion. Nevertheless, it would be a triumph in the end. Triumph in the end. So, I hope that one day I have a chance to do this with my best friend. Okay. At the end here, students, what I did is I just kept going because I wanted you to see how you can actually build fluency. Okay, so once you have the visual cues, once you have the vocabulary and the right notes, then you can build fluency. And even if you don't get all of your ideas in there, like game over, you forgot to, you're telling me, oh, I forgot to talk about my essential climbing gear. Sure, you don't need every little detail in there, okay? Just get the main points and make sure that you cover all of the questions on the card. Okay, students, this is a speaking class, so speak with me, repeat. Let's read the card one more time and let's say this response together. Work on your fluency, lexical resource, and grammar. So here we go, the card one more time. Read and repeat. Try to just repeat instead of reading. So many people dream of having an adventure. Talk about an exciting adventure you would like to go on if you have the chance. Where would you go? Who would you go with? What would you do? What would make this adventure exciting and memorable? A dream that I've had since my childhood is to go on an incredible adventure with my best friend Corey and climb Mount Everest, the highest peak in the world. At first, my friend and I would need to learn more about climbing through instructions and practice. The reason I've always wanted to do this with my friend Corey is because he's an adrenaline junkie, just like me. Mount Everest sits at a height of over 8,800 meters in a section of the Himalayas located in Nepal. In order to get there, I would need to raise a lot of money, perhaps through some publicity stunt like taking a company's flag to the summit, because the ticket to climb Everest is around $25,000, plus we would need to pay for airfare and all of our expensive climbing gear. We would certainly hire an experienced Sherpa to guide us, so we do not get lost on our way up. And once we reached the summit, we would take pictures, videos, and selfies to put on Instagram, Facebook, and other social media. This adventure would be super exciting because of the many challenges we would certainly face on our ascent to the summit, including bad weather like blizzards, frostbite, hunger, cold, and exhaustion. Nevertheless, it would be a triumph in the end, so I hope that one day I have a chance to do this, or at least something close to this, with my best friend. All right, roughly about 2 minutes. Okay. Ahmed says, I'm not sure how many sentences I need during that time. Ahmed, it depends on your speech. Okay, it depends how fast you speak, how fluently, how methodically. Okay. Mohammed, it's not a good idea to write your notes in your own language. It looks bad if the examiner sees that. It shows a lower level of English knowledge. Plus, it's less effective because you're having to translate into English when you're looking at it, and that could cause problems. So, Mohammed, that was a good question. Mohammed Nasser, no, I do not recommend writing notes in your own language. Write your notes in English. Students, to learn a lot more tips like this one that I just said to Mohammed, where I do not recommend writing notes in your own language, you can learn a lot more tips, a lot more skills to get those better band scores. Spend a couple dollars. Visit us at aehelp.com, which is our academic IELTS website. It's this blue one here. Click that red button to get your My Student account. And for the general version, it's this here with the green background. Click that red button to join us there and begin your road to success. That's it for today, students. And I challenge you to practice this again with a different choice on your own time. Do your best. Remember that you're all very smart individuals, and all it takes really is practice. Practice, practice, practice. Much love to all of you, and see you tomorrow for 2 more live IELTS classes. Bye for now.